Hi, in this lecture we'll continue where we left off on the organization of time. Sometimes, with all the different duration symbols, dots and ties, you could get lost while reading or performing. For this reason, musical notations usually include vertical lines called bar lines. Bar lines separate the notes into smaller, easier to grasp groups. Here's an example. Each of those smaller rhythmic groupings is called a measure or a bar. In the example you see right here, all the bars are equal in length, and since the tempo is 60 beats per minute, and each of those bars hold 4 seconds of actual time, it is very common for most or all measures to be the same length, but it's not a requirement. In the notation of music, the composer usually indicates to the performer how the durations and beats are organized into measures by using a meter signature or time signature. Time signature is expressed as two numbers, one over the other, and is placed at the beginning of the music. It's never shown again unless the composer decides to change it, and that's how it looks like. The upper number in the time signature indicates the number of the beats per measure. The lower number shows which of the various duration symbols the composer has selected to represent the beat. Here you see the 4x4. The lower 4 indicates that the quarter note will represent the beat. Of course, other time signatures exist as well. Here's an example of 2x4. In here, we use 2 quarter notes per bar. That means the composer can't put more than the equivalent of 2 quarter notes per measure. And that also means you can't use more than half a tone in a measure. And that's where the ties has the biggest role. You can tie 2 half notes, both located in a different bar each, and that's the equivalent to the length of a whole note. The biggest use for ties is connecting notes between bars. If you want to make a note to be sounded for longer inside the bar, dots would be used instead. But dots only add half its length. But when you want, for example, make a half note be sounded for quarter of its length, the tie would be used. You can't use dots to extend a note if it will go over the time signature capability, because then you'll end up playing the equivalent of more or less notes than what the tempo says you should. The most commonly encountered time signatures have 2, 3, 4, or 6 as the upper number, but any number of beat can be selected. The lower number can only represent the available notes, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. Numbers that doesn't represent the beats can't be selected for the lower number. As I said before, the time signature organizes the number of beats and durations that can fit inside of a bar, and anything can be used as long as it's within the time signature's capability. Let's look at the 4x4 because it's the most common and the easiest to understand. 4x4 says that it can fit the length of 4 quarter notes inside of a bar. But as I already mentioned, it doesn't have to only be quarter notes. Any combination is possible, including rests of course. You only need to add up to 4 quarter notes in length. Here are some examples. Here you see the regular 4 quarter notes. In here you see 3 quarter notes and a quarter stop, 2 half notes, 1 whole note, 8 eighth notes, 4 sets of 1 eighth note and 2 16th notes, 4 sets of 2 16th notes and 1 8th note, 4 sets of 7 32nd notes and 1 16th note, 4 sets of 8th dotted note and a 16th. The possibilities are way too many to show. Play with them however you want. The bar that consists of 2, 4, or 8 beats per measure are called duple meter. 3 beats per measure also exists and is called triple meter. While the notation of the musical meters is associated with beats per measure that are multiplied by 2, 3 is the only exception. That leads to using 6x8 time signatures or 6x4 time signatures, and they're called compound double meters. Also, 9x8 or 9x4 became a thing, and they're called compound triple meter. The word compound indicates to the upper number being some number multiplied by 3. Except 3 itself. They all function the same way as any other time signature, but sounds unique in its own way. I encourage you to try experimenting with it. And also the compound triple and the triple meter itself. If it's measured with eighth, you usually connect the beams in the group of 3. If the upper number has a number like 7, 13 or 19, something that isn't multiplied by 2 or 3, they're called irrational meters. They're not really irrational, just very rare in Western music. In some older musicals, you may see a C or a C with a line going in the middle. Those are older meters. The C is basically 4x4 time signature, and the C with the line in the middle is a 2x2 time signature. And an added fact, notes that are played not exactly on the beat are said to be offbeat. And that's everything on time in music. Exercises are available, enjoy solving them, and see you in the next lecture.